Is going to be talking to you, giving you the recycling update. And without further ado, I will pass this along to you.
All right, thank you. And thank you to the Watershed Council for this invitation. I brought samples. All right, so tonight I've been asked to talk about what the heck is up with recycling, right? Recycling has gone through some pretty drastic changes in our area. So I want to talk about what the new rules are wherever you live in Lane County, because it's different for different locations. I'm going to talk about where to get information, and then a little bit about why the change. Why have we had this change, this drastic change? Also, I'm going to talk about all the successful recycling, or some of the successful recycling going on in the state of Oregon, and some suggestions for action, okay? So, Oregonians have feelings about recycling. That's what they tell us. When some of the changes first started happening, especially in the rural areas, people would call quite upset. What can I do? Oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. What are we going to do? Lots of passion, lots of concern. And that's part of the reason that I'm getting asked to speak at the Rotary Club, at the Garden Club. People want to know, and they want to know what they can do. So hopefully I will help you with that. So here's some of the what. This is just the baseline. Cartons are out. Did everybody get that memo? No more recycling of milk cartons in Lane County. No more recycling of milk cartons in Lane County. So that happened in the rural communities back in October, November. City of Eugene and Cresswell and some other places pulled that trigger in early April, okay? No milk cartons, no soy milk, soup box. So that's basically your gable top is the milk carton, and the aseptic is the square brick, okay? That is milk cartons, just FYI, they're coated with plastic on the inside and the outside. The aseptic packaging, not only is it coated with plastic inside and out, but it also has that layer of aluminum, okay? Very high quality paper in those products, very difficult to collect and recycle. In the rural communities, including Cottage Grove, zero plastic. It's gotten real simple. Zero plastic in the commingle, okay? You guys have handouts that you've gotten from your hauler about that? Do you have good information? Okay. So at Lane County transfer stations, this is the plastic that you can recycle. That's it. So this is an HDP number 2 milk jug. If you have an HDPE number 2 water jug that looks just like this, that's fine, we'll take that. If you have an HDPE number 2 vinegar jug, that's fine, we'll take that. At any Lane County transfer station, that's Cottage Grove, Cresswell, Oak Ridge, Glenwood, anywhere, okay? This is the transfer station. Let me go back. So this no plastic, when I said zero plastic, that's referring to rural haulers, particularly Cottage Grove, Oak Ridge, McKenzie River. So if you live in these communities and a service comes and takes your recycling away, you're not allowed to put plastic in. They can't get it recycled. This is what we can take at the transfer station. This plastic. We used to take plastic bags. We can't take plastic bags at the transfer station. But you can get plastic bags successfully recycled. Does anybody know how? Anybody? Grocery store. Very successful plastic bag recycling, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So this is what you can recycle in City of Eugene. They just made this change. Cresswell is included because they are covered by Sanapak. Anybody here from Cresswell? Okay. So again, cartons are out. Cartons are out everywhere in Lane County. The two types of plastic you can recycle in Cresswell, in City of Eugene, in Florence, that one and that one. These plastics in this form are the most valuable scrap plastics. They're number 1 and number 2, and they switch places. Not a number 1 clamshell, this form, bottle form. These are getting legitimately recycled. They can be recycled. That's all that's being collected in the commingle mix at the curb in these cities. Did everybody get that information? Did you get handouts, something in the mail? Hopefully you did. If you didn't, call your hauler. Ask them to send you a poster, okay? So that is the what. Does anybody have, right now, any questions about what can or cannot be recycled in your community? Yes? We don't accept the number 1s at Glenwood. This is a number 1. We don't take these at the transfer station. We only take this one. We've got about 3 systems going on. We've got the zero plastic system, the milk jug only system, and the 1 and 2 system. And just to be clear, I'm talking about beverage containers. This does not include shampoo. This does not include detergent. This does not include an orange juice jug. It's milk jugs, that type of plastic, this clear. Now, in the drink bottles, it can be transparent green, it can be transparent blue, must be transparent. It's a number 1 bottle. Where should these really be going, though? Should these be in your commingle? What's the best place to put these? Redemption. Because that's Oregon Recycling, Oregon Jobs, okay? That's my opinion anyway. So in paper as normal, paper is what you're used to, glass is what you're used to. So yes? That's correct. Not at the transfer station. So the question was, only in Eugene can you do the number 1 drink bottles? Eugene, Cresswell, Springfield. So it's Eugene and towns serviced by Sanapak. Curbside. But most of the transparent drink bottles, including this one, now have a 10-cent deposit, right? So take these back to the grocery store. And just preview of coming attractions, Cottage Grove is scheduled to get a bottle drop center. It's not on the calendar yet, but you're getting one. You're on the list. So look forward to that. This is, obviously you can't make a poster of every single thing that does not go into the recycle bin, but here are some kind of the greatest hits, okay? So you recycle glass on the side, but please don't put the broken stuff in. You crossed out the milk cartons, crossed out the tubs, no yogurt tubs, no butter tubs. And we don't have to have the conversation anymore, is a Serrata tofu container a tub or not? Because none of that stuff is included. It wasn't, by the way, but no clamshells, okay? It's real clear. It's just drink bottles. That's all they're taking. Yes? No, that is the question was, is in the upper corner, is that aluminum foil? And no, the answer is a clear bag of shredded paper. That's the other paper thing that was dropped, besides the cartons, was bags of shredded paper. Okay? So no light bulbs, obviously, no solo cups. Is there any questions about the nose? That's part of this talk, absolutely. The question was, am I going to explain any of the reasons why? Yes, Absolutely. Okay, so where are you going to get information? I've just outlined 3 distinct recycle programs. One for some rural communities, one for all transfer stations, and one for City of Eugene, Springfield, and Cresswell. Where are you going to get good information? Well, go to your service. Get it from your service. They will tell you what it is that they accept. And they have clear posters that they can send you, put them right on the fridge or on the garage door, wherever you want to put them. Sanipac also has a phone app that's free to download. It's called I think they call it a Waste Wizard. And you can use the search tool to find out what is included in the commingle in particular. Lane Apex also, you can use a national search tool. Brings Used News has a great directory every quarter. And my division, Lane County Waste Management Division, just debuted a new search tool. It's not an app yet, it's not a phone app yet. You can get it on your phone, but it's on the web, and it's lanecounty.org/garbage guru. So you type in whatever you're trying to dispose of, and you will be given choices. And it's specific to where you live in Lane County. You could even look at it now if you want. Some other things we're trying to do to help the situation, help educate, help inform, is to do more advertising and to help haulers, especially the smaller haulers, to do more advertising, help them with the art and that sort of thing. So this is an example of some ads we ran earlier in the year to clear up what is acceptable in terms of paper in the commingle. Did anybody see any of these? We ran them in the Cottage Grove paper, the Cresswell paper. No? Nobody remembers? Okay. All right. So let's try this. Oh, absolutely. The question was, are magazines recyclable? Does everybody know magazines, yes, are recyclable? So the glossy part, you're concerned about the glossy. The glossy is not plastic in the case of a magazine. It's a clay coating, which is very, very compatible with recycling. So I'm going to show an example of a new digital ad that we have just produced and see what you think about it.
Garbage Guru Quiz Show.
Welcome back to Lane County's Garbage Guru Quiz Show, where we ask if it's recyclable in your curbside commingle. Now let's get started. Yes! Correct, it is recyclable. Next slide.
No!
Correct again, congratulations. Thanks for watching, and remember, if in doubt, find out with Lane County's Garbage Guru.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
Most
it
of
is.
us want to
No,
do the
it
right thing by
isn't.
recycling, but knowing what goes can be confusing.
No, it isn't.
You guys don't have to argue. Just check Lane County Garbage Guru.
Lane County Garbage Guru is your online resource for your area's recycling guidelines.
Lane County Garbage Guru says it's garbage.
When in doubt, find out. With Lane County Garbage Guru at lanecounty.org/garbage guru.
Was that helpful? Magazines were in the. Does everybody know paper cups are not recyclable? I'm just going to use paper cups for one paper example. It's one of the many papers that's not recyclable. It doesn't go in commingle. And here are a few of the reasons why. Number one, it had food in it. So that's the first thing. It's food soiled. Number two, it's coated with plastic on the inside. Did everybody know that? It's coated with plastic. When you bond two things together like that, it makes it much more difficult to recycle. And three, when you have food that is intended to, or paper that's intended to stay strong when wet, such as a paper cup, such as a freezer box, for frozen food, there is an additive added to the paper called Ripstop or Wet Strength, And what that does, when that type of paper gets wet that has this additive, instead of the fibers of the paper washing apart so it can be recycled and reformed, they cling together and clump together. And that's how your food safety is maintained. So that type of paper is not compatible with recycling. Okay, so here is some of the reasons why. We have, do you know what have you heard of this term MRF? Sounds like Smurf. They're fun to look at the operation if you look it up on YouTube. Material Recovery Facility. So that's where this recycle soup goes to get picked apart and separated, because how it's sold is in separate commodities, even though we are putting it into one collection bin. We have 5 of these facilities in Portland. 5. So that's too many. It's too many for our population. It's too many for our volume of material. And none of them are very high tech. The reason we ended up with 5 is the people that originally built MRFs were paper makers, paper recyclers. They needed the fiber, they needed the newspaper, they needed the cardboard. And when haulers went to this commingled system for safety and other types of efficiency, financially, et cetera, paper mills did not want to get kind of frozen out of the recycle market, so in self-defense, they would build these material recovery facilities to keep that paper coming to them, right? And so they, box maker would build a MRF, so they would get that paper stock coming to them, and then they figured out the rest. Well, figuring out the rest, in many cases, meant shipping the things that they couldn't market domestically to China, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So how many people remember when curbside first kind of came to our house? The stuff just went away. There were things that we had to do. I collapsed my cardboard and I stacked it underneath a square plastic box. That was my recycle box. Now it's like the glass on the side box in Eugene. So my cardboard was flattened. It was underneath the plastic box. My newspaper was either in a paper bag or tied up with string. My cans were separated from my glass. It was all very specific. I do remember milk jugs coming on at some point in the 90s, but I don't remember other beverage containers after that. I just don't remember. Then we have this commingle cart. All kinds of reasons for making that choice. Safety was one, and an important one, because drivers were getting cut by the glass in the recycling, and that was a serious issue. But it's also more efficient in terms of collection to collect it all in one thing. So we got these huge carts, and the thinking was that we were all just going to put those same materials that we had been tying up and segregating into this roll cart, and that more people would do it. Because we've got these 5 MRFs in Portland. That's very high dollar business, multi-million-dollar equipment, just like a lumber mill. It's big, heavy-duty equipment. Well, we started putting some other things in that bin. But what's true is that recycling programs haven't really changed much since 1996, or they hadn't in this area until recently. It was the newspapers, the cardboard, the cereal boxes, the cans. And for plastic, really, the drink bottle, the milk jug or detergent jug, the butter tub. But what has happened is so many more types of packaging have come online, but what is being asked for in terms of recycling hasn't changed. And why it hasn't changed is because lots of these are produced. Lots more of these than the clamshell containers. And for some reason, we're told, plastic melts with a memory. So a number 1 bottle can't be recycled together with a number 1 bakery tray. Even though they're the same number, they're not compatible recycle-wise. So only the bottles have been asked for. That's it. what I keep hearing is, but it has a number, it has a number, it has a number. We want everything to be recyclable. Should that bakery tray be recyclable? Or the plastic around in electronics, should that be recyclable? Absolutely, it should be recyclable, but we have some limitations, and one of our limitations is our location and our lack of heavy industry here, really. So we've got carpet makers in Georgia, we've got heavy industry in Michigan, and on the East Coast. Here in the West, we went from timber to what? Timber to tech. We kind of skipped over a lot of the heavy manufacturing that's existed for decades in other places, so we don't really have the bones of those businesses. We have some manufacturing, but not a lot. And that's who needs this recycled material. Well, China has a lot. China is an enormous country, a populous country. They have lots and lots of manufacturing. And they've been very, very hungry for our material until they weren't. And one of the things that's happened in China is they've become more of a consumer culture, similar to us. So what are they doing? They are creating their own recycled scrap. They don't really need ours. And they certainly don't need it if it's contaminated. And when I say contaminated, I'm not talking about just mayonnaise being left in the jar. I'm talking about if you're being asked for bottles and you give clamshell containers, that clamshell container, as clean as it can be, is contamination. It's not what's being asked for. It's not in the program. That's, and there are lots of extreme examples. Some people have been using the recycle bin sort of as a, they'll figure it out bin. You know, like, or maybe confusing it with donating for thrift. I've heard tent equipment. I've heard garden hoses. I've heard all kinds of things that just never were part of recycling, and it makes it difficult, and it makes it expensive. Here's something that is little known, because we don't think about it. We just put it at the curb and it goes away. This mix, this commingle mix of recycling by itself is a commodity. It is. And this stuff the value goes up and down with the market. Before the economic downturn, when was that, 2007 and et cetera, to 7, 8, 9? Commingle, perhaps a hauler would be paid $35 a ton to bring commingle to a sorting facility. They would be paid for that material that they collected from your house. During the economic downturn at some point, haulers were no longer getting paid for that material, but they weren't having to pay to get it recycled. It's called zero tip. It was worth zero at that point. They neither got paid nor had to pay to get it recycled. Now recyclers are having to pay to get that material recycled. The price is going up and up and up because the value of the material has gone down, down, down. And in the case of the rural communities, back in October, November, the door shut for one of their recycle options, and the next one that they turned to said, we'll take your stuff, but we can't take your plastic. And that's how that started. So that's a little bit about the why. I could go a lot deeper into that, but that's a little part of it. And if you want to talk about it a little bit after, I'm happy to do that. So China has real concerns, and they've been voicing these concerns for years. The first notice of it was back in 2006, please and thank you, we need cleaner material. The first impact that we had of that was, I think, England in 2012, and here in the Pacific Northwest in 2013, it was something called the Green Fence. Does everybody remember that? That's when China started enforcing at the port the environmental rules they put in place back in 2006 because exporters were not voluntarily complying. So in 2013, anybody who was shipping scrap had to photograph their load, and their photograph had to match the manifest, and it had to be what was asked for. It couldn't be full of trash. And if it was, and it also slowed the port down because of all the inspection. And if it was full of trash, that container could be sent back to the exporter, who had not had to pay to get it shipped. Because, you know, If containers come to the West Coast, we buy the stuff. Now we've got empty containers. They're going to just deadhead back to China unless we put something in it. That's why scrap dealers were getting free shipping. So now they're not getting paid for the material. They have to pay to get that container coming back to them, $2,000 or so. And they either have to pay to dispose of that material now or pay to sort it again. So that was an expensive proposition. And I don't know why that wasn't enough to kind of shake things up, but it wasn't, because here we are. I feel like I've maybe depressed some folks. Sorry about that. Recycling is hugely important. We just have to rethink how we're doing it. We used to do a better job of it, and we do have a lot of successes. But I want to say that the value of recycling is not in just what it costs or what it saves financially. The value of recycling is really in the material, the raw material that does not need to be mined when you use a recycled product. Does that make sense? If you use recycled plastic, that's less fracking. If you use recycled paper, that's less logging. That's where the value lies. And there's a DEQ and DOT did a study in 2010, and they compared figures. And what they learned was that the carbon emissions prevented by recycling activity of Oregonians in this particular year, 2010, were almost equal to the carbon emissions of Oregonians' air travel that year. So we know that transportation is hugely impactful in terms of climate. Recycling was equally impactful on the other end. So it's not the most important thing, but it's still a very important thing to do. So I don't want to lose sight of that. And I am going to talk about recycling successes. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? No? Okay. No? Okay. So here are some awesome recycling successes that you may not know about. When you recycle your pickle jars, when you recycle your beer bottles, any of your glass, whether it's at the curb or through the deposit system, either way, that glass is trucked to a facility in Portland called Glass to Glass that separates the broken glass by color and removes impurities. And then that color-separated glass is then trucked over, not very far, to a business called OI that makes beer bottles. They make a lot of glass, but primarily right now, because it's so popular, beer bottles for the craft beer industry. So if you're recycling your glass, chances are it's coming back to you in a Hop Valley bottle or an Inkazi bottle or something like that. So that's a really cool local story. And glass can be problematic because it's so heavy to transport. In Dallas, Fort Worth, where there is one of the largest trash and recycle haulers in the world, actually, that city had to drop their glass recycling. They don't have a glass maker. They don't have a way to manage that material. They said they couldn't afford to manage it. So I think we're really fortunate here. And again, the plastic story, I love this story. ORPET, O-R-P-E-T. That plant is in St. Helens, Oregon. It's been going for almost 10 years. And they receive every single plastic bottle in the deposit system. So that's all recycled here. And they make a product called Flake, which is basically washed and shredded plastic. And that product, that Flake product, then goes into berry boxes and PET strap for lumber and carpet and the puffy fill for your coat, and in some rare cases, into more plastic bottles. Plastic bags. That's a hugely important thing to get recycled, and it's also very, very successful. So please do recycle your plastic bags. The largest purchaser of plastic bags in the United States is a company called Trex Lumber. You know what that is? They make fencing and decking. The ingredients for Trex Lumber are plastic bags and wood waste. That's how they make their stuff. And if you want to see more about that, you can find them on YouTube. Yes? Okay. So the question was, is plastic bag recycling only grocery bags? No, it's not only grocery bags, but no, it's also not the wrapper on that straw. So and you can go to plasticfilmrecycling.org and get a really cool poster if you want to do that kind of collection yourself. But the kinds of things that are common things that would be included would be the regular grocery bag with a handle, the t-shirt bag, the produce bag, which is a different kind of plastic. They're like number 2 and number 4. Dry cleaner bags are included. The plastic wrapper around toilet paper is included. So lots of things are. Lots of things are. Cardboard, we have a very successful paper mill in Springfield, high wage jobs, very important. And then Bulk Handling Systems is a maker of this material recovery equipment. It's called Separation Technology. And they are actually located in Eugene, Oregon. They place about 10 large multi-million-dollar systems somewhere in the world every year. And one of the cool things that they have right now, the newest thing they have, is called Max AI. It's a computerized sorter. And this computer brain sorter has like 30,000 pictures uploaded into its memory. It has 4 sorting arms. And the types of companies that buy this, they'll buy it for their plastic finishing line. So it's a company that's bought a bale of plastic. Should all be bottles, probably isn't all bottles. But what Max will do is he will separate all of this plastic, and he can tell a plastic clamshell from a plastic bottle and do that kind of fine separation. So there's a lot of stuff that's available for separation that we just don't have access to right where we are. At the grocery store. So you have to think beyond the bin. You have to think beyond the bin. There are so many things that are recyclable. When you did the trivia, cooking oil is recyclable. You don't put it in the commingle bin. You have to take it to sequential. Motor oil is recyclable. You don't put it in the commingle bin. Compact fluorescent, same thing. There are lots of things that we use, common things that we use in our life that are recyclable. We don't put them in this mix bin, right? Okay. I can't say enough about the container deposit system. Do you know what happens to that $25 million worth of dimes that didn't get redeemed? Does that go into recycling programs? Does that go to support schools? Nope. Your unredeemed dime stays with the beverage distributor. That's who keeps the dime. They're the first one that grabbed it, right? And it's a very efficient collection system. But if you don't redeem that dime, it stays with that company. I have the green bag system, so I don't have to count my cans. I take my green bag to the bottle drop. The workers count the cans, add the money to my account. Last year, I had like $100 in my account. I had not done anything with it. And I was able to, with a click of a button, move my money from my deposits to a charity that I favor. And that was part of my giving. It's pretty cool. And it's a good thing we had the expansion of the bottle bill in January for the rural communities. This is the only way they're getting anything recycled that's plastic. Boy, that's hard to see. So this is just an example of the types of containers that are included, and it's basically any ready-to-drink beverage. It's not milk. It's not milk products. It's not meal replacement like Ensure, and it's not beer. It's not wine and spirits. These were hard-fought battles in the Oregon legislature to try to improve the bottle bill to the point that we got it today. So I think we're going to stand pat here for quite a while. I don't think milk's going to be added anytime soon. I don't think spirits are going to be added anytime soon. I think this is what we have for now. So I want to try to harness your energy around your concern about plastic recycling and our limitations now. Only 7.9% of what was landfilled annually, well, we'll just say 2016 because that's when we did this very intensive study. Less than 8% of what was in the landfill that year is plastic. only 2% of what was in the landfill would be recognizable to you as recyclable plastic, and half of that was film. So I don't think that the plastic that we're not being able to recycle right now is going to add significantly to the landfill load. When plastic gets to the landfill, that's the good news, because now it's sequestered. It's not getting into the ocean. That's the good news. It's doing no more harm. The harm that is associated with it already has happened. Food, however, can be very harmful in the landfill because it continues to generate methane. Now, you may know we do capture methane at the landfill for electricity generation, and that's very successful. But when a cell is open and active, fugitive emissions get into the atmosphere. We think in an active cell that's open and not completely closed down, we probably capture 75% of the landfill gas. So we don't need more food in there. So if you want to harness your energy around your disappointment about the plastic, I vote for food. We have a huge food waste problem, and that's in the home, and that's in the restaurant, and that's in the field. And this is something that we all can personally do something about at every level, every level. So that's my vote, and I hope you will think about that. So here's something, this is kind of my side gig. At Lane County Waste Management, we have a event recycling loan program, and so we loan recycle bins. I think Bohemia Mining Days borrowed bins recently. We also have dishware that we loan. When I was a little girl, this is how we rolled. If you didn't have enough plates, you borrowed plates from us. If we didn't have enough chairs, we borrowed chairs from you. And that actually is better for the environment. People say, well, what about water for washing? Water for washing is inconsequential compared to water that it takes to produce paper. So please consider going back to the old ways. In many cases, they are the better ways. So if you are deeply passionate about this topic, we would love for you to become a master recycler. And our next class starts September 11th. Enrollment is open now, and we did bring applications. If you are in business that's in any way related to recycling, I hope you will check out the Association of Oregon Recyclers, or if you're interested in a job in sustainability or anything related to recycling or solid waste. If you are an active student, either high school or college, membership in that association is free. And then also, if you can't make it to a Master Recycler class, Master Recycler programs throughout the state of Oregon have developed an online class through OSU. And it's pretty low cost. I think it's $50 to take that class. If you have 5 people or more in your business, it's $35 a person. So there's a lot of places you can put your energy. Okay, so how many people have met Casey tonight with the straw pledge? How many people would like to meet Casey tonight with the straw pledge? Awesome. Okay, so Master Recyclers have been doing the Ditch the Disposables campaign. We're trying to encourage folks to ditch plastic straws, ditch plastic forks, ditch Kleenex, you know, something that is, and what we want to do is reward and remind with something that is durable. So tonight, Casey has pledge sheets. If you're ready to ditch the plastic straw, that means that you're willing to have this conversation, which can be uncomfortable and sometimes hard to remember, at a restaurant. Before you make your order, please, I don't want any straws. And then the next level, if you're a regular at a place, can you talk to the business and say, you know, Axe and Fiddle, they don't give straws out, only by request. Would you consider doing that too? I might come here more often if you did that, you know, that kind of thing. So if you're willing to take that pledge, we would be most grateful. And really that's how we're going to get at some of this, is using less stuff, using more durable things. Did I miss the R one? Yeah, I did. Okay. So one of the things I've been thinking about, and I'm just going to end with this, I think a lot of us, including myself, have put all our sustainability eggs in the recycle basket. Recycle is not the first R. There are activities that we can do that are far more impactful than just recycling. And when we get to the end, then we have to decide if something's recyclable or not. The less stuff I bring home, the less I have to wonder, is it recyclable or not? So that's just for your consideration. Are there any questions? Yes. Well, you reminded me of some great things. So the concern was the profit motive is why we're in this situation. One thing I want to let folks know, the ocean plastic, that's a big concern for everyone. Where do you think the ocean plastic is coming from? It's mostly coming from land. 80% is coming from land. It's mostly coming from 10 of the largest rivers, not the Columbia, not the Mississippi. 8 of the largest rivers bringing plastic into the ocean are in Asia. Okay, here's one area where we're actually not the bad guy directly. The reason it's not the Columbia and the Mississippi and et cetera is because we have such a mature trash collection system. It's you know, that civic infrastructure, right? So that's why that's something that we're not contributing to directly. One thing that I would say in terms of the profit, and one thing that could be helpful, would be helpful and has been helpful in other things, is something called producer responsibility. Because people that make the packaging, once it leaves the gate, cradle to gate, they have no more responsibility or take no more responsibility. If producers were responsible for the collection of that material or end of life, whatever it was, I think we would be in a better situation. And we have some examples of really good producer responsibility laws here in Oregon. One is the electronics. That's why electronics recycling is free. Anyone who sells electronics in the state of Oregon has to contribute based on their market share to the recovery and recycling, responsible recycling of those electronics. The paint is the same. So if there were more circumstances like that, I think more things would be recycled. So if producer responsibility legislation comes up, dig into that, because it could be very, very helpful. You had a question, sir? Oops. No, you're good? Okay. The comment was it's how do you figure out where to take stuff? It would be great to have a handout. Well, I do have a handout for the transfer station, so that's really clear. And we do have other stuff that we take besides the commingle mix. But Bring Recycling has their quarterly directory, and it has all that information as well. So, and again, if you go online, Garbage Guru, you can find out where to take lots of things, not just what goes in the commingle bin. So yes. How come my mom in Portland can recycle plastics that I cannot? That's the question. Because your mom lives surrounded by 5 material recovery facilities and some plastic processors. So Portland has been slow to pull the trigger. Here in Oregon, we have really great recycling laws. And what that means is whatever you put out to the curb or whatever you take to the transfer station, specified for recycling by law, by Oregon law, is required to be recycled. We're not throwing it away. It's not going in the river. When the rural communities got cut off from being able to recycle certain materials, particularly plastic, but also the cartons, they took them out of the program rather than try to get a variance from DEQ to temporarily dispose of them in the trash after they had then collected them for recycling. We want to be very transparent in Lane County, and that's pretty universal. If we can't legitimately get something into the recycling market, we don't want to take it as recycling. So that's why that's happening. And in Portland, they've taken a different tack. And so if you want to go onto the Oregon DEQ website, you can see which companies got these variances to dispose of trash. It's a small fraction overall, or dispose of recycling as trash. It's a small fraction overall, but we don't know when this market adjustment is going to resolve itself. There are other countries that have come in to take the place of China. Vietnam is one of them. Vietnam has gotten overwhelmed with all of the scrap that's available now that China has withdrawn from the mixed scrap market. And they've had to shut their ports to mixed scrap material because they don't have the capacity. Nobody does. Nobody has the capacity that China has had. So it's going to take a while for other foreign export markets to develop capacity, develop desire. Now that China is out of the picture, that frees up innovation and it frees up that material to be available. If Pacific Northwest manufacturers come online to take it, but all of that's going to take time. But in the meantime, just as a reminder, that commingle recycling, it's a product. It's not trash, it's a product, and we need to think about it like that. If you're going to put something in the recycling, is it in the same condition you would want something to be if you were going to purchase it at a resale store? It's a product. We're voluntarily helping to collect it. But if it's not sell-worthy, nobody's going to buy it from us. There was a question over here. Yes. Master recyclers did too. So the comment was, when we went over to commingle, many of us got sloppy and maybe didn't rinse things out. And again, I just want to remind you, it's not just the rinsed thing. It's the wrong thing is also the issue. Yeah, it's a big bin, the lid closes, you can't see what's in it. Yes? So the question is, what's being done to start manufacturing plants so we don't send it to China? There's no problem. So there have been stakeholder meetings on this subject, on the phone, in person, every week since, I think, last September or October. So people are working the problem. So pay attention. There will be things coming up. Nancy's Yogurt obviously really wants to get her material recycled. They are going to be hosting roundups for that specific material. Hopefully economic development dollars will go into this idea of maybe having a local, regional plastic recovery facility so we can have more control over that. But it's not, it doesn't pencil out financially. It's going to be a values proposition. I buy a Chico bag as a premium. I buy the 99% recycled content version of it. It's the most expensive version of it because plastic made from natural gas is cheaper than plastic made from pop bottles right now. I mean, that's part of the equation too, is fracking has released more fuel, so it's kept the price of fuel down, which has kept the price of recycled content plastic up because of the collection issue. So there's a lot of factors at play, but as a value proposition, we get the recycled content one because we want to promote and encourage recycled content products. So ask for that. That's part of this too, is choose things that have recycled content. Ask what the recycled content is. Ask if it's post-consumer recycled content in particular. Is that helpful? Yes. So the question is, if there's $25 million of the unredeemed deposit, why can't that money go toward including other things? Well, okay, so the question is, why was it hard to get the beverage containers that we have, and why don't we have the others? Is that it? So Oregon is an early innovator in a lot of things. Bottle bill was one. We weren't the first in North America, but we were the first in the United States. We have the first bottle bill. We don't have the best bottle bill. We do not have custody of the unredeemed deposit. It stays with the beverage manufacturer. That's a private business. That's their money. And getting it away from them at this point is proven difficult. Yeah, I'm not clear. We should talk about this after. But one of the things that one of the lobbyists that I talked to said, when water bottles were added, and people didn't know water bottles were added for a long time, it wasn't a big splash. I was doing a lot of education, but I talked to people a year after that went into place in 2008 or so, and people still didn't know that the water bottle was added. But this one lobbyist told me, as soon as the water bottle's added, dimes are going to be raining down on the beverage distributors because people don't know or won't do, right? Okay. I got cynical, and I forgot to continue asking myself that question. So if they're going to get the dime anyway, why not include other things? I don't know. Coke and Pepsi in particular fight bottle bills all over the country. That's why we only have 10. I don't know why they fight it. I don't know. That's a question for Coke and Pepsi. It boggles my mind. I don't know why. Does it add to their cost? I don't know why they fight it. But they do. They absolutely do. Any other questions? I'm going to yes, go ahead. You know, the suggestion is, you know, maybe there should be a ban on plastic bags, and remember to bring your durables. I think it was the country of Ireland. I get confused about the two Irelands, but they didn't do a bag ban. They did a bag fee, and their plastic bag use dropped dramatically. So people didn't want to pay for it, so they stopped using them. So I think I'm going to wrap right here. And if you have any individual questions, I'll stick around a little while. Thank you for your attention.